How much did Jesus actually suffer? It's a question that's difficult to answer, not because we lack information, but because the depth of his suffering goes beyond what words can fully capture. When most people think about the suffering of Jesus, they think of the cross, and rightly so. But the suffering of Christ began long before the nails pierced his hands and feet. The Bible describes Jesus as a man of sorrows who was acquainted with grief. Centuries before his birth, the prophet Isaiah foretold a Messiah who would be rejected, despised, and ultimately wounded for the sins of others. And that's exactly what happened. The journey to the cross began with betrayal. One of Jesus' own disciples, Judas Iscariot, sold him for 30 pieces of silver. Then came the arrest in Gethsemane, the abandonment of his closest friends, the false accusations, the mock trials, the mockery, the beatings, the scourging, the crown of thorns, the crushing weight of the cross, and finally, the agony of crucifixion itself. But here's what's remarkable, that every step, Jesus could have stopped it. He wasn't trapped, he wasn't powerless. He willingly chose this path. Why? Because his mission was bigger than avoiding pain. His mission was to save humanity. The Bible teaches that sin separates us from God. Every person has fallen short of God's perfect standard. And because God is just, sin cannot simply be ignored. Yet because God is loving, he made a way for sinners to be redeemed. That way was Jesus Christ. The suffering of Jesus wasn't merely physical, though the physical pain was unimaginable. It was emotional. Imagine being betrayed by a close friend and abandoned by those you love, mocked by those you came to save, rejected by your own people. And then there was the spiritual suffering. On the cross, Jesus bore the weight of humanity's sin. The innocent one carried the guilt of the guilty. The righteous one took the punishment we deserved. The Bible presents his suffering as the ultimate act of love, not because suffering itself is good, but because of what his suffering accomplished. Through the cross, forgiveness became possible. Through the cross, the power of sin was broken. Through the cross, death itself was defeated. And through the resurrection, God's victory was revealed to the world. The suffering of Jesus was not the end of the story. It was the pathway to redemption. It was the doorway to resurrection. It was the greatest rescue mission in human history. And that's the takeaway. When we look at the suffering of Christ, we aren't simply witnessing a tragedy. We are witnessing the depth of God's love. Every betrayal, every wound, every humiliation, every drop of blood, every painful step toward Calvary was taken for us. The cross reminds us that God is not distant from human suffering. He entered into it. He understands it, and through Jesus, he overcame it. So place your faith in the Savior who suffered for your redemption. Trust the one who endured the cross and conquered the grave. And live with courage and hope, knowing that no darkness is greater than the love of God revealed in Jesus Christ, because the story of Christ's suffering ultimately becomes the story of our salvation. For more of the biblical history related to this topic, please visit the link in the description, and don't forget to like and subscribe.